My good friend Shri Prakash Javadekar, Honorable Minister for the Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General of TERI, the Honorable Matthew J. Nolan, Treasurer of AirQualityAsia, respected ministers, members of parliament, distinguished speakers, friends, none more so than my good friend Shazia Rafi, who has spearheaded AirQualityAsia for South Asia all the way from the US. I'm delighted to welcome this distinguished gathering at the fourth edition of the annual Roundtable Consultation series. We have really three voices in this opening session. Our Honorable Minister, Dr. Mathur, and myself. And the overall theme is that of driving central and state level actions. I'm really pleased, if I may say so on a personal note, to note the manner in which this platform has steadily grown in these last 4 years, following the first closed-door edition of consultations that I convened literally around, not quite a round, but an oval table in July 2017. At that time, I had brought together civil society stakeholders, technical experts, communications professionals, and senior healthcare practitioners, including the current director of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, to a discussion on how we could collaborate and develop a comprehensive strategy to address India's crisis of toxic air. At that point, it looked like a bit of an orphan initiative, but it has grown significantly in attention and support. In the second year, we had the Observer Research Foundation working with us. In the third year, I was delighted to have the co-sponsorship of TERI, the Energy Research Institute, and its Director General, Dr. Ajay Mathur, who co-chaired the event with me last time, is here. Delighted to welcome him. And for the first time, we had the Government of India represented with an inaugural address last year by the Honorable Minister for the Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Shri Prakash Javadekar. Prakash ji gave us an absolutely inspiring speech on clean air. And what delighted me was to see not only buy-in for this issue at the very highest levels of the government, but a personal engagement that meant that he could speak to us without any notes for about half an hour and keep the audience absolutely focused on the key issues before us. So I will start by requesting first Dr. Ajay Mathur, the Director General of TERI, who is also a member of the Prime Minister's Council on Climate Change, to say his words of welcome to the participants of this meeting. We will then invite, that I will say a few words by way of an opening address, and finally invite the Honourable Minister for an inaugural address. Dr. Mathur, the first words to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me thank you, and at the same time, welcome each one of you here. We are delighted yet again to work with Clean Air Asia on getting us all together here. Last year has been one of huge events. It has seen on the one hand, the growth of a larger community of actors who are deeply involved with air quality. And while we have seen, at least in Delhi, we haven't seen a great decline in the air pollution, what we have seen is a much greater degree of commitment, both at the level of people and most importantly at the level of policy, to address this issue. I must say that the creation of a multi-jurisdictional commission, and for full disclosure, I am a member of the commission, but the creation of a multi-jurisdictional commission is, I think, a great first step in moving in the direction of bringing all the stakeholders on board to address this issue. It could look at the science that underlies this. We fully understand that ultimately it is the politics of my actions and your actions which determines how air quality will play out. But it is also important that we see what is the science that bases actions, whether it is mine or more importantly that of the government. The setting up of monitoring stations across the country the creation of the source inventories, the development of citywide action plans are a good first step. We are delighted that we have this big gathering of legislators, of at all levels of government, of policymakers, of the leaders of the pollution control boards here with us. It is this discussion, it is these conversations that will drive action in the days to come.
Now, this year, we have all agreed to focus on the role of cities and states in our campaign against toxic air, along with the corresponding efforts of implementing agencies. And in our current air quality strategies, state administrations and urban local bodies are in many ways the heartbeat of our efforts. They're responsible for leading the campaign for clean air. And we are privileged to have eminent voices from states, including 2 state ministers who will join us in the next session, who displayed a remarkable sense of initiative and leadership in matters of the environment and will be sharing their thoughts with the gathering later this evening. Unlike the early years of the Roundtable, as a cautious optimist, I believe there's a growing recognition within the political class that the issue of air pollution, the corresponding impact on larger themes of climate change, as well as the debilitating effects on our own personal health, cannot be indefinitely ignored. I think election campaigns have begun to see people talk about poor air. We, for the first time, had a parliament discussion. Javadekar Sahab will remember this, on clean air. I spoke at it myself in the Lok Sabha. And I think the fact that there is now officially a clean air, national clean air policy, though some will dismiss this as plans only on paper, I would say it's indicative of green shoots and growing awareness amongst vital players that our nation's development priorities require cleaning up air pollution in our country. And this is a window that should open up further in the post-pandemic era, because in many ways, the COVID-19 pandemic has offered a sobering reminder to all of us of the fragility of our own humanity and the importance of securing our personal health. We've all suffered, many of us, to greater and lesser degree, unquantifiable pain and losses as families, as communities, as individuals. I think very clearly we need to shore up the defenses of the communities we live in and develop an environment that safeguards our health against such threats. At the end of the day, the engine of growth is our Indian workforce, and an unhealthy and vulnerable workforce will not generate the economic growth the country needs. While the Prime Minister invoked the famous 18th century Urdu poet Mir Taki Mir to rightly point out that Jaan hai to jahan hai, while announcing the national lockdown, existing research has already highlighted that the economic implications of deteriorating air quality are ominous. Many here may be aware of the 2013 World Bank study, which estimated that welfare costs and lost labor income due to air pollution alone cost the exchequer nearly 8.5% of India's GDP. Labor losses due to air pollution, in terms of number of man days lost, for instance, resulted in a reported loss of 55.39 billion a year. And premature deaths cost the country an estimated 7.6% of GDP, $505 billion. This is all according to the World Bank 7 years ago. I'm sure it's only got worse as Delhi's air has got worse and the air of other countries, other cities in our country has got worse. So it's a matter of concern to all of us who live in regions where air quality is often poor and has remained poor. Severe exposure to foul air, as we're accustomed to in Delhi, inevitably means that most of us have gradually developed weaker respiratory systems and other conditions that will make us even more vulnerable to a virus like COVID-19. Even among those who may otherwise be young, who work out, who don't smoke, who eat a nutritious diet, they can all suffer only because of air quality. I hope we will seize this opportunity in the post-COVID world with ambition, capitalize on this realization. In a country as diverse and stratified as ours, crises we are required to address daily are many, and often some will have to take priority over others. But if we have greater willingness to clean up our air, engage in matters of health, fix the environment we live in, I think we will do well by the entire country, by the economy, by each of us. And I believe there's growing recognition that the silent killer of toxic air affects us all, no matter where we live in the country, what political and ideological affiliations we may have, what socioeconomic class we find ourselves in. No one is insulated from air pollution. That's a discovery. As somebody said about toxic water and the rivers, we all live downstream. That's why I'm so pleased that our next speaker giving the inaugural address is my very good friend, Shri Prakash Javadekar. I'm very grateful to him for taking time out of his busy schedule as Union Minister, to join us.
It's my pleasant role to, on behalf of AirQualityAsia, I would like to welcome you all and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to deliberate on how we drive central, state and city level actions to achieve a clean air economy in India. Since 2016, AirQualityAsia has been working with high-level policymakers to implement the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2030 and the Paris Agreement by assisting governments across Asia to strengthen national environment and energy policies. With over 1.5 million lives having been lost to date to the COVID virus. According to the World Health Organization, air pollution kills over 7 million people every year, with limited response from government around the world. There is evidence that the spread of COVID-19 pandemic is accelerated in regions experiencing high levels of air pollution. Scientists also suggest that air pollution particles may be acting as vehicles for viral transmission. So we must clean up our air across the globe, and our decision makers at all levels, be they national, subnational, and metropolitan, are going to have to adopt and implement policies for cleaner air. We in AirQualityAsia hope that this meeting will assist in accelerating this process in India.
I'm very happy to be with you. Last year, I was in person there in Habitat Center. So first, let me start with saying that air quality is a very big issue. And we are committed to solve it and improve the air quality in Indian cities. And what can be the best pledge than Prime Minister himself from the Red Fort rampart on 15th August declared that in 100 cities, we will improve the air quality by at least 20-25% within next 4 years. That's a very big announcement. And I think for that, we have launched National Clean Air Program. And what is the essence of it is, it will have a city-specific pollution, anti-pollution plan. Process of solution to problem starts by recognition of the problem. And 2015 Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched Air Quality Index. And that was the recognition of a fact that there exists a problem and we will solve it with cooperation of all people. If you stop vehicles, if you stop industries, there will be always cleaner weather. But that doesn't happen always, no. Otherwise, how you will survive? So it's a problem of livelihood also. But we must do better practices of industry, better practices of vehicles, better practices of waste management, and better practices of dust management. That is what is important. And therefore, in vehicles, we have done 3 major things in all the cities. With the investment of more than $12 billion US, we have improved the refineries to produce BS6 level of fuel. And that is very important. And we mandated car manufacturers also, and truck manufacturers and two-wheeler manufacturers also to have BS6 compliant vehicles. So what happens when you have a BS6 compliant vehicle plus BS6 fuel? Then you reduce nearly 60 to 70% of pollution causing from vehicles. So that's a huge difference with huge investment. Second is, we created Eastern and Western Express Peripheral Way. Better road is one solution to pollution, because better road makes traffic easy. And what we have done is, with Eastern Western Express Peripheral Way, which was languishing for 10 years, we completed in 4 years. And what happened is, now 60,000 non-destined vehicles which were passing through Delhi and polluting Delhi don't enter into Delhi periphery. So that's a basic difference. We have also given e-push. Now we have 300,000 e-vehicles, e-cars, more than 100,000 e-rickshaws, more than 100,000, or even more than 500,000 scooties. And we have also adopted battery swapping policy and creating infrastructure for battery charging. That e-push is very important. CNG buses is another factor of decision. For metro is a big decision, because we are spreading metros in more than 15 cities, including Thiruvananthapuram, including my Pune city, including now Agra also today. Everything, when you build metro, you provide environmental friendly public transport. And that is very important. About industry, we have closed down Badarpur and Sonipat power plant, and we have decided to phase out all the old power plants. And now latest decision is, with investment of more than $6 billion US dollars, we are actually implementing coal to liquid, because that will reduce pollution burden in power sector. Then we are monitoring 24/7 4,500 polluting industries of the country. There we have put machines on their sensor machines on their chimney, as well as on their discharge water pipeline. And that gives us real-time feedback every 15 minutes. If they are, they receive SMS immediately. And if they don't improve, we even close the industries. So we have introduced zigzag technology to reduce brick kilns pollution. At the same time, we have banned pet coke in NCR area. We are also introduced piped natural gas in more than 3,000 industries. For stubble burning, we made 1,100 crore rupees last year and 300 crore rupees this year to provide machines. And also waste management, C&D rules were made in 2016. Since independence, construction and demolition waste management rules were not made. We made it. And not only made it, now in Delhi there are 3 plants operating which process 6,000 tons of debris every day and creating roadside furniture. We have increased 15,000 square kilometers in last 6 years. The tree cover outside the forest and inside the forest. So that's also creates the carbon sequestration. We have taken up a responsibility of creating additional 2.5 billion tons of carbon sequestration. And we have also taken up restoration of land of 26 million hectares as target. And that will also create carbon sequestration. We are serious to take action. And every city-specific plans are being made. And within next 2-3 months, the plans will be finalized. Action plan will also be finalized. And then it will start. So within 1,000 days, we will make a difference to the air of that particular city. So more 100 cities will be monitored regularly. And therefore, we will achieve the target. But it needs public participation. And that's my last point. There are some issues which I think should be bipartisan, which I think should be no party politics involved, because pollution is one such issue. where we must, literacy is one such issue. Health is one such issue. We all must be one in our voice, resolve, and the programs. Then, without politics, we can go ahead and make things much better and earlier. That's all from my side. Thank you and all the best.
Can I use the opportunity to add my words of thanks to those of Mr. Shashi Tharoor and thank the Minister for his deep and insightful address, especially looking at the very many ways in which we are attacking air pollution. I'm also delighted that he spoke of the bipartisanship of the effort, and so we all stand with you. May I thank Mr. Nolan, may I thank Mr. Shashi Tharoor for participating in this inaugural session.
Well, let me thank everyone for this opening session. We are, as a result, a few minutes late for the next one, which is state level actions for air pollution control. We will now have two young people, a young minister and a young MLA, to speak about the activities in their state.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, sir, for a kind introduction. I think, like we spoke in a last conference, I guess, less than a week ago, what is really crucial is people like you, me, and the honorable panelists out here, and in terms of the political philosophy, moves towards speaking about climate change action, towards clean air, clean water, cleaner energy sources, and largely bring this conversation about a manifesto for politics and governance. I think that is very crucial. In terms of clean air, and when we speak about our priorities for the state, of course, we have set up in the last few years from the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board a 24/7 action plan for monitoring air, and every 4 hours we get a report about the air quality index and so on and so forth. However, when we speak about clean air, largely the conversation doesn't revolve around clean air, because clean air is actually a result of our actions, or rather inactions, towards climate change mitigation. Clean air is always very, very intangible. It is something that you can't really touch, feel, or see unless and until you see the smog in your eyes or your eyes start watering. We can't look at clean air as a different silo altogether away from climate change. We really need to look at how cities, and which is really why I've been, pushing for this city of Mumbai to be a part of C40, is primarily because when we speak about clean air, we've got to look at what our cities and villages are doing towards clean air. It's not just about emissions from industries, it's not just about stubble burning or firecrackers, but it's going to also start right from our homes and doorsteps. So solid waste management is really what we as cities and as states should be really working on, because of course, like I said, the air quality monitoring, air quality measures, digital boards about whether the air is clean or not is one thing, but these are all telling you why it is, or where it is not clean. Why it is not clean is somewhere we could focus. Like I said, the story of Mumbai, and that really gives me hope, is 2017 till about August to September, our daily generation of waste was 10,000 metric tons a day. That's about 400 armored cars. We started this movement about segregation. We've got about roughly 40% of our housing societies from the 22,000 odd societies that we have in Mumbai starting to segregate waste, and the bulk generators, we've got it down to 6,500 metric tons. That's a huge jump for us. But the other thing I really want everyone to focus on is, of course, sources of energy, because when we speak about energy, we're also looking at thermal energy, which we have largely not moved away from in India. So we need to strongly move towards renewable sources of energy, because we've been working out on getting electric mobility into Maharashtra, be it Tesla chasing them, or be it something like the 340 buses that we've launched. When we speak about electric mobility, I think we need to build an ecosystem around electric mobility where we are fueling our cars, our electric cars, with renewable energy. And as a result of which, I've been pushing this for the last 2-3 years now, finally it's seeing the light of the day. The Middle Vaitarna Dam, which the BMC built, it's also the 9th fastest dam in the world. We're now going for 40 megawatts of hydel energy and 80 megawatts of solar energy, floating solar on the lake. And we would be going ahead and establishing it by mid-Jan. That is one of the things. The Mumbai-Nagpur Expressway, which we are constructing as the government of Maharashtra, goes through almost multiple districts. We would be solarizing the highway, and we generate 230 megawatts of solar energy through that. I think this is one of the aspects we could really focus on. Like I said, when we speak about energy, when we speak about renewable energy and transport, this is all interlinked, be it newer metros, be it newer ways of public transport, designing our cities in a way that we could create walking cities, because most of our cities really came about after the age of the motor vehicles came about. So if you see the difference between Indian cities and most Western cities can convert into 15-minute cities. You can walk from one place to another and you would reach your destination. In a city like ours or any other new city in Mumbai, of course, or in India, we have zones created, commercial zone, industrial zone, residential zone, and that is not a 15-minute city. So we can create last mile connectivity and carpooling, public transport that reduces the emissions by large. Finally, there are two aspects which I think are very, very crucial. They are great contributors to air pollution. They are largely responsible for it, and it's up to us of how we take care of them. One is the amount of urbanization, or rather construction of houses, with a lot of old houses and buildings getting into rehabilitation and reconstruction, that, and the other is the amount of infrastructure that we're generating in our country. Of course, every particle of dust, every particle of SPM that is raised from every bit of infrastructure, moving of girders, moving of pillars, I think that is something we really need to look at and focus on. Be it creating urban forests, be it creating urban thickets, be it monitoring air quality, be it having air purifiers. I think there is a way ahead where we can find a balance called sustainable development. I think that is what we ought to do, because frankly, we cannot stop living, and yet we cannot start living with a mask on. It's really horrid to do that. The nose starts hurting. I think it's time for all of us to realize what development means. It's time for all of us to think what we're doing to the planet, and look at air pollution, which is a very, very tangible result of our tangible actions like solid waste management, energy resources, and things like that. So I think that is what we need to really think about.
Issues like air pollution and the larger theme of climate change often gets caught in this sort of dichotomy of development versus sustainability. And that is, there's this inversely proportionate representative that says, a relationship that says that the notion that caring for our environment always comes with an opportunity cost in terms of our economic development. So if you want to look after the environment, down goes economic development. If you want to focus on development, then down goes the environment. Does it have to be that way? And I could argue that Chhattisgarh has a particularly interesting challenge. On the one hand, your economy is significantly reliant on industrial activity, mineral production. You have coal in your own constituency, which I gather is a very major priority in your own constituency. And at the same time, Chhattisgarh has responsibility for large swathes of our country's forest covers. Apparently, about 40% of the state is covered by forest, as well as tribal groups who are often missed in the narrative of development. So with your background of environmental action, how do you look at this narrative of the supposed trade-off between development and sustainability? And how do we collectively move beyond this debate? The floor is yours, Ambica Singh Deo.
You're absolutely right. We are in a catch-22 situation. We have coal mines here, and the coal dust is polluting the whole area. It is polluting the air, it is polluting the water. But on the other hand, we are totally dependent on these coal mines. Most of our people are working here, and during this coronavirus times, we have seen that most of the people who are in the coal mine area, they have been affected very badly. But on the other hand, as we have forests and trees, the fatality rate in the forest areas have been really very low. Another very important work which is being done in Chhattisgarh is we are moving away from the traditional fertilizers which were being used all these while. We are collecting the cow dung. Proper fertilizers are being made and distributed, but to be able to move properly towards a better future, we definitely need the help of the more advanced areas of the country as well as the world. so that we are able to protect our forest and provide better air. Honorable Aaditya ji just mentioned, the conditions in the cities is far, far worse, because today all the women, the pregnant ladies who are in the cities and are in contact with the polluted air, they have 80% chances of delivering babies who would have asthma as children.
I just wanted to turn back, if I may, to Aditya, because I think that the role that states can play in addressing air pollution is a very important priority. And a number of experts have frequently highlighted certain structural challenges in our current approach to fighting air pollution. For example, as Prakash Javadekar ji mentioned, we have a national clean air program, which has listed 102 cities called non-attainment cities that do not meet nationally specified ambient air quality standards. And frankly, that includes 19 in Maharashtra, Aditya, 3 in Chhattisgarh, Ambica, that's Bhilai, Korba, and Raipur. And amongst the challenges mentioned are coordination between center and state, limited funding coming from the state, I beg your pardon, from the center to the state, and of course, very severe limitations on local state pollution control boards when it comes to things like penalizing offenders and so on. States can and do have a vital role to play in driving clean air action. So I'd like to ask each of you a question following this rather long introduction to the question. Aditya, what is your view on the role of states as the point of view of a minister? Your recommendation on tangible steps that you can take independently as a state minister, and where you feel you need much greater support from the center to drive some of these interventions. And then I'll turn to you, Ambica, to see whether you have any additional thoughts on Aditya's perspectives on this question.
If the states can have more say, if the center can actually give more say to the states in terms of A, implementing the clean air program, B, also listening to a lot of things, like for example, when we as states are, especially as Maharashtra, we're giving more focus on the eco-sensitive zone and protection of biodiversity in the Western Ghats, and 3, largely to support us in terms of, if not economically, at least in terms of a thought philosophy or ideologically, in terms of ideating, not ideologically, ideating for clean air, in terms of what is the best mechanism to get clean air initiatives into your city or into your state.
Aditya, I have one brief issue that I think is particular relevance to you, which is that we all know how important urban local bodies are in terms of plans to address air pollution. I've been looking at expert reports that say that 60% of activities to regulate air pollution fall under the jurisdiction of urban local bodies. But these in themselves in our country are branches of the administration with very limited financial autonomy and capacity to spearhead any meaningful clean air action program. Now, from your experiences, specifically in the context of Mumbai, Aditya, could you tell us a bit more about the challenges you may be facing in this regard?
When we speak about the federal structure, I also mean in terms of giving away powers to as many local bodies as possible, be it urban or rural. Of course, because of the GST and because of fund structure being centralized, the dearth of funds is really creating an issue for a lot of local bodies. But when we speak about smaller local bodies also, the problem is in terms of anything we want to do, there's a lack of funds. Like I said, in terms of supporting our cities, we would be focusing on funds so that our cities can be independent and go for the best technologies. That is really important. Secondly, in terms of changes, I think one basic change we need to bring in, and which we've just tied up with the UNICEF for, is to bring in environment and climate change as a part of a simplified syllabus in schools, and teach that syllabus not to just students, but to public representatives. I think to make it simplified and to bring it to them, saying this is what is happening in your lane and this is climate change or bad air. That is what is needed.
With those words, I'm thanking you both. Let me hand you back, all of you, to Shazia Rafi, the president of AirQualityAsia, US-based, who will take the discussion on to the next session. I will have to leave you for my own next engagement. But thank you so much for coming. And let's keep this, this important battle waged. Namaskar, Jai Hind.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Tharoor. I hope you will stay just a few minutes so that the next session kicks off. The next session actually is extremely important because whatever laws and regulations that Parliament passes, that politicians and ministers agree to, have to actually be implemented by government officials who are charged with that responsibility. And we are very lucky to have, through our work with TERI, the heads of pollution control boards, both the central as well as Delhi, as well as the state of Bihar with us. But more important, I also wanted to take the chance to introduce Honorable Meenakshi Lekhi, who is a member of Parliament, Lok Sabha from Delhi, and she has been involved with the work of AirQualityAsia since 2018.
Thank you very much, Shazia and Dr. Tharoor and everyone else on the webinar, whoever is joined by us today. First, let me just thank all of you and also for allowing me to share my thoughts on how we can reduce air pollution in our cities. Health and economic impact of air pollution is something which we all know of, and it keeps repeating itself. Whether it's breathlessness, low quality of life, we are expected to live with bad air quality. And according to World Bank, air pollution costs India up to about 8.5% of GDP due to its direct health and indirect welfare cost impact. And I guess everyone, whoever has elderly at home or young children at home, understands this cost better than anyone else. Air pollution in India is responsible for about 30% premature deaths, cancer, mental illnesses. So disease burden is also immense, and ICMR has said that bad air quality is a contributing factor in Delhi's COVID-19 cases. The fact is that COVID had its own implications, and when quality of air is bad, our immune system operates and works differently and adds to the burden of disease. And we all know how this virus has impacted our lives across the globe, and every country has been impacted. Existing laws and programs, the National Clean Air Program, NCAP, was launched. And the idea was to achieve 20 to 30% reduction of particulate matter concentration by 2024. And here I must say that our Infrastructure Development Minister, Road and Transport, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, was very, very emphatic about building the Eastern-Western Peripheral Highway and reduce the number of trucks entering the cities, and with which there has been a decrease in the particulate matter in Delhi, and that is because the larger vehicles have moved out. Government's also taken up steps to boost electric vehicles and renewable energy. I have a little doubt because whenever we talk of EVs and we talk of renewable energy, I think we forget the cost of lithium battery, which itself is immense on the environment. And R&D must be there to find a replacement for this particular battery, without which no EV can operate. And no matter what kind of renewable energy we use, from biomass to solar to electric, we would always need a battery. And I think that's an area which we all must focus on and work on alternative battery modules. Ultimately, it is for the cities and states to implement the laws and come up with solutions. I mean, we all know how Delhi government posted children and youngsters during COVID-19, 2 minutes to stop the vehicles at the red light and switch off and on-off system. Without any scientific basis, I think it's a waste of resource. Sometimes you have very simple solutions in eye, and feasibility of a solution is something which we all must work on. and pollution control boards and committees, although they play a very, very important role. But I think municipalities' roles cannot be abandoned. And for that, the financial wherewithal with which things need to be handled is something which we all need to work on. I'm pleased to, with these words, I'm pleased to introduce the speakers of today and Dr. Prashant Gargava, who's the Member Secretary, Central Pollution Control Board. We will also have Vijay Kumar Gogiji, he's IFS Chairman, Karnataka State Pollution Control Board. Dr. Ashok Kumar Ghosh, he's probably not joining us, if I'm not wrong. He's busy in a meeting. Ashish Tiwari ji, he's also...
He is joining. Mr. Gogi is not joining.
Mr. Gogi is not joining. I'm so sorry. Ashok ji, I'm very sorry. My apologies.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Ashok Kumar Ghosh, Chairman, Bihar State Pollution Control Board. Dr. Ashish Tiwari, he is Member Secretary, Uttar Pradesh Pollution Control Board. Dr. Ankit Anand, IAS Secretary, Housing and Environment, Chhattisgarh Environment Conservation, and Dr. MP George, Scientist, C Air Lab, Delhi Pollution Control Committee. With these words, I will like to hand over the mic to Shazia.
So we will start first with the Central Control Boards. I would like to ask Mr. Prashant Gargav to take the floor.
We heard Honorable Dr. Mr. Prakash Javadekar giving some details about actions that have been taken at various levels by the government. There are a few points that I wish to bring here for discussion. Firstly, I'm extremely optimistic that in the years to come, and that too in the near future, air quality in our cities and towns will improve. Now, there are reasons for that. One is, as we see this forum, in the last few years, there has been substantial political discussion. Air pollution has also become public agenda. Second reason for my optimism is that in last few years, we have seen more and more of scientific analysis, scientific inputs coming into policy framing. We have set up a central control room, data analyzed on real-time basis, looking at meteorological conditions, looking at source contributions, looking at area-specific reasons or causes of air pollution, and targeting ground actions on pinpointed basis. So there's a lot of scientific input, a lot of data analysis, which is coming into not only policy framing, but also on day-to-day actions of implementing agencies. There has been tightening of standards for major industrial sectors. The most important sector, one is cement industries, where these standards have already been implemented. In case of power plants, it is something that is in process. About 100 power plants have already started meeting new sulfur dioxide emission norms. There is a phase-out plan. Large number of old power plants either have been shut down or will be phased out very soon. 110 city-level plans have already been finalized based on the current knowledge of sources and their contribution, the knowledge of various options that are available on short-term basis, on medium-term basis, or also on long-term basis. They are put in place. Implementing agencies have been identified. Resources to some extent are available either by the central government, and the Finance Commission has given 4,000 crore rupees for select cities, which is essentially focused on actions to improve air quality. I think long-term measures, the theme of this discussion is about long-term measures. We certainly will require technology-based solutions so that enforcement burden is limited because our pollution control boards have limited capacities to monitor. So we are sorting to better tools and techniques. So we are using technologies, supplementing our limited capacities. But then in the long term, we'll have to have technology-based solutions for which we already have a roadmap. So I think these are my few initial remarks. And I can assure you that we are on the right track. We have some understanding of the problem and also solutions. It's only that we need some time, we need some resources to move ahead and provide better quality to fellow citizens. So with this, I think we'll close, and then I'll be available for more questions if you have. Thank you so much.
Excellent. And I'm sure there will definitely be questions even after the event is over, because this is being live streamed on YouTube. So now I would like to ask Mr. Ashok Ghosh from the Bihar Pollution Control Board to take the floor and to tell us about the challenges of implementation in Bihar. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening to everybody. It is a pleasure for me to participate in this discussion that is a serious problem across India and particularly in the Indo-Gangetic plain. A few things that already we have implemented in Bihar is there. That one major source of air pollution in Bihar was that of the brick kilns. There are about 8,000 brick kilns in Bihar total in my sector. We started converting them to new technology. The old technology was very high emitting as far as the coal output is concerned. So we instructed all the brick kilns to convert it to zigzag technology or any new technology that is less emitting. And fortunately, the brick kilns cooperated. And as of now, 70% brick kilns they have converted into new technology, that is zigzag technology, less emitting. And not only that, we are also promoting the fly ash bricks. Because, fly ash is abundant in Bihar due to thermal power plants, so many thermal power plants. And fly ash is a problem of disposal for them. And fly ash bricks are coming up now. We are promoting fly ash bricks because they're non-emitting. The problem with any environmental pollution problem is not the laws. We have many laws to control the air pollution. But the problem is the implementation of the law. And Dr. Gargava said that we are regulatory bodies. We're not implementing bodies. The action plan, it involves 6-7 departments, government departments, like Urban Development Department, Agriculture Department, Road Construction Department, so on, Forest Department. We have made a road plan for overall control of pollution. And we have distributed the duties also, that which department has to do what. Like Pollution Control Board cannot do plantation. Plantation has to be done by Forest Department. Similarly, construction and demolition things, they should be regulated. And for that, the independent department is there. And then municipal corporation is there for waste disposal. It happens that we circulate the laws, we circulate the advisories. But ultimately, on ground, things percolate very slowly. I don't say that departments are not cooperating, but one problem is there that district administrations in Bihar, they are overworked with so many activities. And somehow or other, pollution is not on the top priority. But within the last 2-3 years, everybody has accepted that pollution is also a big problem and hazardous for human health. And so a very strong, high-powered committee has been formed in Bihar under the Chief Secretary of Bihar with the Principal Secretaries of 6 line departments and Pollution Control Board. And they are monitoring the activities. That in coming years, we'll have better results. So these are the things that we are doing in Bihar. And that's it for the time being. If any question will be there, it is welcome anytime. Thank you very much.
I now actually turn to the scientist on our panel, Dr. George, who is representing the scientific cell from Delhi.
So as far as Delhi, as you said, it have the tag of the most polluted city. And we listened about status from our Honorable Minister, Javadekar ji, and then Prashant ji also talked about Delhi. And I'm happy. Prashant ji only told when we compared with 2016, we improved about 20 to 25%. The first thing which less talked and highly discussed matter is prevention of the stubble burning. Of course, in Delhi, if you talk about the very less agricultural area, so stubble burning is almost negligible. Whatsoever we are getting from our neighboring states. But then too, whatsoever area is there, which is agricultural residue, is generally here in Delhi, we use it for the packaging purpose for the different fruit mandis and other thing. And this year, we came with the IRI-based fungus-based decomposer technology, which is we found very successful. Within 20 days, 21 days, the agricultural residue is decomposed. Then other problem which we face generally in the Delhi is the open burning, because people use biomass whichever is available for the heating purpose and for the, of course, cooking or any other thing. So this year what we did, about 169 teams in the field for the surveillance in the night and day from the different stakeholders. And the other problem which generally complained by the other states is the open burning in the landfill sites. We have 3 landfill sites, but none of it is that scientifically designed. So officers are posted there to stop any type of burning, but it happens. At the same time, the Delhi government had its own app, which is called Green Delhi app. It's available on the Play Store, and anyone can download it. And there the complaint redressal is time bound. If it is not met by the time, it will go to next step and the action will be immediately. And when you come to the industrial pollution control, yes, Delhi has industries, but if you see what type of fuel they are using, they all are, any air quality unit which is identified, it's about 1,600. All of them are shifted to the clean air, that is piped natural gas. If they are not working on the piped natural gas, they are not allowed to work, they are sealed. And of course, on the Supreme Court initiative, we are going for the installation of smog towers at 2 places. This is the things which we are doing at present, but now comes the question, what is for the future? So the different interventions are there, which have the highest impact on the particulate concentration. We are planning for complete phase out of the biomass use especially in Delhi. By the LPG penetration in rural household and jhopdi clusters, use of agriculture residue in the power plants and other industries to replace the high-ash coal, introduction to the gas fuels. Already, as I said, in the industries, we are using gas as fuel. Introduction, strict implementation of the BS6 norms. And of course, we are developing the inspection of the vehicle system. And the major thing what we come with, the enhanced penetration of the electric and hybrid vehicles. Delhi electrical vehicle policy has been notified by the Transport Department in August this year. And now for these electrical vehicles, we are giving the financial initiatives, waiver of road tax is there, establishment of network of charging stations is developed, intensive communication plan for development of database of public charging infrastructure is there. So this type of steps are taken. This is from my side at this moment. Thank you.
I will take the initiative to close this session. I hope that you will stay to just hear the concluding remarks from my colleague Sumit Sharma, who has been working with me over the last few months to make this webinar a success. and who is the lead on this issue of air pollution, air quality management at TERI. Sumit, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Shazia ji. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Coming from the research fraternity, I must say that actions which we are taking needs to be based on hard research facts, and that will only help you to take right actions, and the results of these actions will be visible even faster. And regionality of the issue is something which has been brought up by doing good science, and that has told us that pollution is not just restricted to small cities. In fact, it is coming from a very wide, broad airshed, and that's why the regional scale controls becomes very important. The science has also told us that it is not just the direct primary particles which are important. Unless you control SO2, unless you control NOx, unless you control VOCs, you will never be able to get rid of the secondary part of the problem of particulate matter. The link between climate change and air quality, and it's becoming more and more evident day by day. We can see how air quality is actually impacting regional scale climatic patterns, and the effect of meteorology and climate is more evident on air quality, especially what we see in winters on the effect of air quality is something which we cannot forget. I think one more point which we like to point out here is that doing the enforcement manually is probably not going to work in a country like India, which is so big, so diverse, and probably the demands will ever, always be much higher than the supply which will be required in the enforcement domain. So I think the advent of technology, the use of technology can help to some extent, and I think a lot of actions are already being taken. I think the real use of technology for proper enforcement of law is something which we are yet to see. Last thing is about this linking the Finance Commission grants. So recently, the Finance Commission has granted money to the states for taking actions or for air pollution control. I think this should definitely be linked with the performance of the states and not just be based on the status of air quality. So with these few things, I would like to thank again, all the panelists in this. All are my dear friends. I'm so happy to say that. And so thank you so much for staying with us so late.
This has been extremely interesting. I wanted to say just a few words on behalf of AirQualityAsia to thank Dr. Mathur, Honorable Dr. Tharoor, Honorable Minister Javadekar, and also the State Minister Thackeray, and Ms. Ambica Singh Deo, and Mrs. Lekhi, and Honorable Nolan, members of Parliament and Legislative Assemblies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, namaskar and good evening. On behalf of AQA, I want to congratulate AQA India and our team led by John Koshi and TERI led by Sumit Sharma on the first convening of federal, state and city level policymakers on the critical issue of hazardous air pollution. You should know this is the first meeting of this nature anywhere in South Asia. Allow me to take you back a little and share the role parliamentarians have played in the global agreements on clean air and how AirQualityAsia India, working with key partners like TERI, fits into this global framework. Air pollution is an accelerator of climate change. The same carbon emissions that speed up global warming make air quality worse. Air quality monitoring allows policymakers like all of you and government officials that are doing implementation a real-time progress measure. AQA was established in November 2016 to implement the Clean Air UN SDGs 2030. AQA convenes parliamentarians, government officials, UN and development agencies, green finance institutions, and civil society to that end. The to clean air was proposed at the Interparliamentary Union meeting November 2013 by the Parliamentary Working Group on Clean Air. The actual language on clean air was negotiated in the SDGs 2030 by September 2015 by parliamentarians. And these strong targets were signed by all governments, including India. So these are the three clean air SDGs, as you can see, SDG 3.9, 11.6, and 12.4. The targets are specific. They lay out the sources of air pollution and the implementation to be undertaken by governments. The whole UN system is assigned various roles in monitoring. UN agencies, WHO, UNEP, Habitat are assigned monitoring of these three SDGs. The World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and other affiliated agencies are assigned funding role to help governments in implementation. So South Asia is the one which is ground zero of this challenge, because South Asian governments face the world's most polluted cities with regard to air pollution. WHO estimates that 18 to 19 out of 20 most polluted cities in the world are in South Asia. 13 to 14 are in India. In addition to the majority of deaths from respiratory illnesses, which we are aware of, asthma, COPD, air pollution also causes 36% of the deaths from lung cancer, 34% of stroke deaths, 27% of deaths from heart disease. We also now know, based on research in both Italy and the US, that air pollution has increased COVID-19 deaths by over 15%. The next slide actually is extremely interesting. It is the result of research by the Global Alliance on Health and Pollution, on which AirQualityAsia serves on their board. This shows that air pollution deaths have a bell curve. They rise as countries move from low income to lower middle and upper middle income, and then drop again as they reach high income. So that means air pollution itself is rising during that intensive period of industrialization. And then there is something interesting that happens, which is that air pollution declines. So why is that? It's because our means of generating energy and our means of industrial production are polluting, are dirty, while we are in that phase of increasing industry. Once higher income is achieved, countries have more access to technology solutions that are clean and green. That has been the situation in the past. That differential is now changing rapidly as green energy, green production technologies are spreading rapidly across the globe. And these new technologies are not just coming from the so-called developed countries. You know, as you mentioned, this program of Build India. So India educates over 1 million engineers annually, in contrast to the United States, which educates about 40,000 engineers annually. Many of the global advances in clean production, in clean energy, are the result of the work of Indian engineers. So this is an untapped resource that governments need to bring on board so that the mental energies of those that are getting educated by your systems are actually put to use for a clean air economy. How to make that transition is, and how to pay for the cost of it. So most important for policymakers is how countries will pay for the transition to a clean air economy. Part of that answer, not all of it, lies in transitioning the current cost of air pollution to the economy. This was mentioned by Dr. Tharoor. As you can see from the World Bank 2016 report, India's air pollution had that year a 7.8% negative GDP impact. Later reports show a higher percentage as air pollution levels increased. So when you apply that to the 2019 GDP figure, the official figure, it is over 200 billion that is leaking out of the Indian economy due to air pollution. And the same picture applies to all the South Asian and East Asian countries with varying percentages. China, for example, was 5.6%. It is getting lower. Globally, it was about 5.3 trillion in 2016, much higher now. These same funds need to be transitioned to socioeconomic development. That is the real challenge. So we know that this is possible. Technically, it's possible. Physically, it's possible. Within weeks of the COVID-19 lockdown, air pollution had dropped dramatically across the globe. And in Delhi, blue skies had returned. Nature restores itself if man's destructive activity can be curtailed. But of course, we can't permanently shut down the economy. And as you can see, if policies are not changed, pollution returns. So we are facing this challenge of how to maintain growth while not increasing air pollution. And COVID gave us a bit of respite, and it also showed us what was possible. Now we must and can build back better. We know from data from the state of California, from the European Union, from Mexico, Chile, China, that air quality improvement policies work. And clearly, California and China have not stopped growing. During the most tough, rapid industrialized phase, California from the 70s grew its economy, added jobs, and still reduced its air pollution. China is in the same boat. India is already on that path with the National Clean Air Plan. As we've heard, state and city governments are also following up with state-level plans. But with monitoring, there need to be targets, timelines, emission standards for power plants, industry, transport, including moving to electric vehicles. As one example, this is a clear visual of the soot going into your lungs depending on which Euro level fuel is currently allowed on the roads. This is from the International Council on Clean Transportation. Euro 6 or an electric vehicle would be an empty bottle. So that's our goal. We want the empty bottle. But whose job is it to get the implementation of goals, standards, laws done? The bulk of the responsibility and the power to implement is with national state governments working together in coordination with city administration. Air has no boundaries, either within nations or across nations. Legislators, federal and state, working with their government officials are ideally suited to building this implementation framework within the state and interstate. And it has to be done on a cross-party basis because implementation in a democratic system with a growing economy is much more challenging. Their role as parliamentarians is also as communicators to convince their constituents, their local industry magnates, their small business owners, farmers, along with their role in transitioning their budgets towards a clean air economy are all crucial. I know we at AirQualityAsia and TERI will continue to support that work for all our right to clean air. Dhanyavad. Thank you very much. I would now like to ask Honorable MJ Nolan to conclude this conference with a vote of thanks.
Honourable Ministers, Excellencies, Honourable Members of Parliament, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of AirQualityAsia, I want to thank you for your active and passionate engagement in this, the fourth round-table consultation on cleaning the air, driving central and state level action. Over the past 2 hours, I think we've all learned a little, and some of us a lot, from your very considerate contributions. As a former politician, I think I would like to emphasize again, and because we have so many active and current politicians at our roundtable discussion, I think I have to lay emphasis on the role of public representatives in resolving this particular problem, be they at local, regional or state level. I think, there must be a commitment by all parties, and it has to be a bipartisan approach to it. And I'm glad that so many speakers and contributors recognized that particular issue. I want to give special thanks in closing this roundtable. I want to give special thanks to the Honourable Dr. Shashi Tharoor MP, Chair of the Committee on Information Technology and a fellow board member of AirQualityAsia with me. I also like to thank Prakash Javadekar, you'll have to excuse my pronunciation of Indian names here, Minister for the Environment, Forestry and Climate Change. The Honourable Lekhi MP, Honourable Singh Deo, Minister for Health, Chhattisgarh, Chair of the Air Quality Committee. Honourable Shri Aaditya Thackeray, Minister for the Environment. Honourable Singh, Mayor of Amritsar in the Punjab, and the distinguished experts from the Central and State Pollution Control Boards of India. I would also like to thank Dr. Mathur, Director General of TERI, whose commitment and assistance and help to us in AirQualityAsia is very much appreciated. Also to Dr. Sharma, also from TERI, and indeed the whole TERI team. I want to especially thank our own AirQualityAsia President, Shazia Rafi, whose input into this has been invaluable, and the whole AirQualityAsia team, John Koshi, Dorota Pelka, and Vinay Inyar, in bringing this conference to a success. Lastly, but most importantly, none of this work would have been possible by us without the generous support of our donors, particularly the SED Fund led by Vikas Mehta. So thank you all again, and I hope we've all learned something from this particular roundtable.